So thank you for the introduction. Following Rana's presentation on the new draft of the PEF, I will present a case study that we did with Nespresso during the pilot testing phase, and that I think led also to some of the changes that were just presented. I will try to answer to the following questions. How does the PEF translate in a real life? That was the goal of the exercise. As Rana said, there is often some differences between what is in theory and how it is the reality of doing the assessment. And what are the main findings, recommendation, and conclusion that were taken from the exercise? As a quick context, just I won't go much on quantities. Just we are a lifecycle assessment consultancy, and we work on different aspects, different also methodological developments, and it was with that hat on with that aspect that we worked on the stakeholders consultancy and the pilot testing of the PEF. This slide, most of you know, all of you know, I think, lifecycle assessment. I wanted to put it here because the PEF is a multi-indicator methodology. So that looks at carbon footprint, but also other environmental impacts, the water footprint, impact of on ecosystem quality, etc. Not on the endpoint level, but stay at the mean point level. So there is more indicators than just the 4 or 5 that are presented here, and that's a point that I will come back to it later. So the case study presented is the case of Nespresso. We choose that because it's a product that we know well. It's a product that I think most also of you are using at the moment or used a bit earlier. We published a critical review LCA on that subject, and we took that LCA and did the same exercise with the same functional unit with the PEF methodology. So we look at the raw material acquisition and pre-processing, the production, the distribution and storage, the use, and the end of life. So the first result that I want to show is that is for the climate change results. On the top you have the original LCA. On the bottom you have the PEF, the results from the PEF guide. It's for a cup of coffee made in France. And what you can see that using the same assumption, the same basic data, there is a 35% difference in the overall results. So this is due mainly to the fact that in the use stage for the LCA we used European average electricity mix scenario. It's a point that was also mentioned earlier, that it can lead to lots of differences, and the PEF requires to use supplier or at least national emission factors, so that can lead to that type of difference. So the message here is that it's really important for comparability. It is very important that these type of assumptions are clearly put and are clearly stated in the methodology. The next slide of results shows sort of the multi-indicator approach. Here you have again the climate change results from the PEF study. If you look at that slide, you would focus on the production and then also on the use stage. When we look at different indicators, here in the mineral fossil resource depletion, we see that the use stage becomes overwhelmingly important, and for water resource depletion as well. So the scenario, the results that were from that we could draw from climate change are refined by using the multi-indicator approach, and are also sometimes that can lead to changes in decision making. So So this multi criteria approach is very very important for us. So as a conclusion, the main feedback that we provided the European Commission with is that it's a positive, the writing and the whole PEF and OEF methodology is a positive push towards the harmonization of multi-indicator LCA practices. It is very important in terms of comparability. The strength are the multi-criteria approach. The impact categories are based on the internationally accepted methods, so that's also something that we thought was important, and that's the case. The PEF provides clear guidance on how to conduct the assessment, and also there is a regionalized approach for water footprinting, which is something important. Of course, if climate change is a global issue, water footprinting is very much more local due to water scarcity, and that's something that is taken into account in the PEF. In the points that are still to improve, so maybe the guy is doing not just like that, but that's improving. The LCD database, which is the database recommended for the PEF, is still in development and is not very complete at the moment. So when doing the real assessment, there was sometimes some lack of data, and this is important if the PEF wants the LCD to be used in a regular basis, that this approach, this database is complete. The midpoint approach that I mentioned a bit earlier, we have in the PEF, it's recommended to stop at the assessment of 14 different impacts categories, so we have a very broad and general vision of the impacts. But it's more difficult than to take decision for the companies. It's more difficult to take the decisions based on that. There is a lot of interpretation of the results to do, and that's something that is that requires a lot of work, and that's not that easy for the companies. The regionalization that I just mentioned earlier is feasible, but it's time-consuming in current LCA software. It's not very practical to do. And also the implementation of the recommended impact method in the LCA software were not mature. There were some mistakes or some implementation that have to be improved for the methodology to be really usable. So how does the PEF methodology translate in a real case scenario? We saw, and it was also a feedback from Nespresso, it's about similar to a standard LCA product in terms of resource, time, and cost. So that's a lot if you have 10,000 products to assess, or if you have even 50 or hundreds of products. And it's useful to gain a comprehensive vision of the impact. The French environmental footprinting of products took a more mass LCA approach, which allows to look at more products in a more efficient time, less in details, but that's a different way to look at this type of assessment. And the main findings and recommendations that we provided to the European Commission and JRC, it's that it's necessary to have a coherent and practical database approach. And of course, that's the sectorial and the product category rules and an external review are very important to achieve the goal of the JRC to have comparable results between the different studies. So this has been enhanced in the latest draft version, but it is really something very important, as it's the goal of the PEF to have a methodology that allows for comparison. It raises also more questions that I think we'll discuss later, that Michele also will probably answer in his presentation. How to promote the use of the PEF among other footprint methodologies? Will there be a regulation, a legislation? And how and when will the PFCR will be published? What is the time frame of that? And yeah, that's the type of questions that are still open. And as Rana said, it's an ongoing process. But yeah, that's the type of discussion that we'll probably have later. So thank you for your attention.